I've never done before. We are going to replace a switch panel, 3 switches in it, as well as an outlet. Now the reason we're going to be doing this is one of the switches it wasn't put in there right. It's broken. I opened it up already. It's cracked and it's just not working right. I'll show you what I mean. So as you see right here, we have 3 switches here. You can see the lighting in here is not great, and that's because of this switch. The switch is cracked, so when I flip the switch, you can see a light comes on, but then when I let go, it shuts off. So it's not making good contact. Sometimes it stays on. If you shut it off, turn it back on, now it doesn't work. You kind of have to mess with it. It's not working right. And the reason I'm replacing all of them is, one, the person that did it probably didn't do a great job. But the other reason is, if you notice around the room, there's a lot of brushed nickel. See if I can get better lighting in here with that light. That's brushed nickel up there. All the connections on all the handles and stuff in here, towel rack, all that kind of stuff is brushed nickel, and then you have this white. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to replace all of this with a brushed nickel style switches, a newer style, so it'll be the toggle switches, the push ones, as well as a nice screwless back plate. Sorry about the lighting. And I'll do the same for this outlet over here. There's nothing wrong with the outlet, but it is really gunked up. If you look at it, it looks like he painted it. Just was done terribly. So I'm going to replace this with a all brushed nickel, brushed nickel, brushed nickel, and brushed nickel toggle switches. Again, this is the first time, so I'm going to tell you what I'm doing. I'm going to do some research, make sure I know what I'm doing, and then we're going to give it a shot. We'll see what happens. It'll be a little bit of a tutorial, but again, I'm not an expert on this, so double check if you're going to do it yourself. Make sure you do the right things. First thing we have to do is we're going to have to shut off the power. It's very important. Obviously, we're messing with electrical. You don't want to have power running to it, sticking screwdrivers in there, grabbing wires, all kinds of dumb things. If there's power to it, you're going to get shocked. It's not worth it. Fire hazard, all that kind of stuff. So we'll flip the breaker, come up here, flip the switches, make sure there's no power, leave it off for a couple minutes just to make sure there's no power in the lines, and then we'll get started. I'll run some lighting for in here so you can see what I'm doing. Alright, I'm back. As you can see, lighting's crazy in here. I have a little light hanging here to give me some light. I'm going to use another flashlight and some stuff to make sure I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to take off the panel and I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. I took apart this one here. Lighting may be a little better. I got an extension cord, ran it from the hallway into here so we can get a little more range on that light. I didn't check the backs, but I wanted to show you guys what I got and what it costs and all that, so you can see what this type of job would cost if you use decent quality stuff. So, I went to Lowe's and I picked up these things. This is all the, looks like some French sounding name, Legrand or something like that, Radiant, I don't know. Anyway, it was the higher end stuff that they had. It's the screwless design, so everything's hidden. It's both wall plates, so we have the three switch one and the wall plate that matches up with the power outlet. And then I have the 3 switches here, as well as the outlet replacement here. All this together from Lowe's, as you can see right here, came out to $45.71. I don't know if that's expensive. I know I purchased a replacement switch for another thing, and it was the same kind of white switch, and it was like $1 or something. So probably is a little bit more expensive than your standard stuff, but here's the point. I only want to do this once. I want it done right. Figure we'll spend a little bit more now, make it look nice, and we're good forever, right? We'll see if it works out like that. In any event, I'm going to tear all this down, make sure the wiring lines up, and I'll be back with you after I do some work on the first one. I'll let you know any issues I run into and if it went smoothly. So I'll be right back. Alright, so we hooked up the first one, as you can see right here. Everything went up according to plan. What I did notice is this wire coming into the back here on the old one, right here,
I believe it was right back here. It was very loose. I didn't have to press to release it, it just was loose. And I'm wondering if that was the cause. I'm not sure, but if you're trying to repair it, maybe check that. Just push it in, make sure it's locked in there. Check all your wiring. But that was loose. In any event, everything lined up the same. I tested it. As you can see, I'm flipping the switch. Now the line is active, so I've got to be careful not to touch anything, but everything seems to be working good. So I'm going to repeat that for the other ones, and then I'll be back. As I was working through the next switch, I noticed that there was, and I already cleaned part of it, but if you look really close, you may be able to see that there is some paint on this actual connection for the switch. And I figured we don't want that paint on there because it's going to probably, potentially cause some blockage in the connection. So I figured what I'll do is I'll use a wire brush and just brush the connection here like this and clear off any of that paint and any corrosion that may be in there. So I'm going to do that for all the wiring. Again, make sure your power's off. I did disconnect the power after I did that last test. You can see the new switch here. It's not aligned perfectly. I have it loose a little bit so I can mess with the alignment just to make it line up with the switch plate perfectly. So working on the second one, just figured I'd show you the idea here. If you see any corrosion or paint or any residue, glue, whatever, clean it off, maybe good tough bristled brush, and just make it good for the next step. Alright, I'll be back soon. Okay guys, I have the 3 switches mounted, and I went to mount the screwless back plate, and it's actually really easy, and I'm going to show you how that works. So here's the 3 switches. They're not aligned perfectly yet, and the nice thing about this plate is this is not the actual plate, but this is the mounting hardware for the plate. But if you notice, there are 6 screws, 3 on top and 3 down at the bottom. They actually screw right into the screw hole above the one that mounts the actual switch itself. So what I'm going to do is take that, make them aligned, tighten them down. Once they're aligned properly, put these screws in, and then the screwless wall plate should clip right above, right around it. It should look nice. So I will bring you back once I do that. Alright guys, I got the mounting plate on, and one thing I didn't realize, which is obviously kind of dumb on my part, but if you look here, you can actually see that they actually have openings here to tighten down the mounting screws for the switch as well as the plate. So you really should have these super loose before you put this plate on so that you can move them. You don't have to worry about trying to align them first. My dumb mistake. I tried to tighten them down and then put the plate on, and then I realized what I was doing. So just a tip for you when you're doing this. Make it loose, put the plate on, and then do it all at the same time. I'm going to clip the outer plate, and then I'm going to work on the outlet. Alright, see you soon. Okay, any good project will always have a mistake. And for you that have done this before or just have general electrical knowledge, might have noticed this. I did not. Now I did. As I was working on the last step, I'll show you what I did. So if you look here, if you look at this receptacle, we are in a bathroom right now, and if you notice it has the, not really sure what it's called, but let's look at the GFCI. In other words, it's like a breaker. So if you have a surge, from my understanding, if you have a surge, it will pop it so it doesn't, cause problems for your electronics. And in the bathroom, I'm guessing because there's water, it's required. And the wiring's slightly different. So when I went to hook up the regular one, wiring didn't align. And I looked, realized what I did, brought it back, and unfortunately, that original one was $5. The new one, which is right here, $25. So now a $45 project just became a $65 project, $20 more. just something to keep in mind, that if you're doing bathroom, make sure you get the one with the fuse, or, the GFCI thing. It keeps it to code. You're not gonna screw any wiring up because the wiring will align. I checked it in the store. It's the same as what I have. So it'll make it right. I'll be honest, I kind of wanted to just use the cheap one, but I'm one of those guys that says, if I'm going to do it, let's do it right. It's $20 more, but it's done right. I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to worry about any, whatever can happen if you don't run one of those in the bathroom. It's better just to do it right the first time, and then you don't have to worry about it. So now I'm going to wire up that one. I'll be back with you a couple minutes when I get that wired up. We'll flip the fuse on, or flip the breaker on, plug some things in, flip the switches, make sure everything works, and we'll see how it goes. Alright, I'll be back soon. Alright guys, looks like we're all finished. There might be some alignment issues I need to address, but for the most part, it's all set. You can see here. Everything's in. The lights are currently on. One of the sets of lights, the other set is up there. And the fan. That's all set. There was a test light on here which showed that it was working, but alright, finally done. I addressed an alignment issue that was driving me crazy. It was with the outlet here. The alignment tabs in the back, I didn't realize that you needed to bend them slightly to make it align, so it's just making me go nuts because the faceplate was sitting crooked on it. It's still not 100% perfect, but it's a lot better. But everything's working. So I know this isn't a full step-by-step tutorial, but the nice thing is each wire connected pretty much exactly as it would on the new ones, and there's instructions with them, and my best advice to you is to get very similar types. So if you're going from a, what do they call that? Let's see if I can figure this out. GFCI, the one with the breaker built in. Make sure you get another one of those, because if you switch to the other kind, apparently you can mess up the ground or something like that. I was reading it online. It's not worth it to risk that. And the switches, as long as you're not coming from too old, I imagine they'd be pretty much the same. You're just hooking up a power line, a hot wire, and a ground, and then you'll have an additional hot wire which will then kind of daisy chain to the next switch if you have another switch. And it's the same thing for outlets. You'll have a hot and a ground, and then one that daisy chains to the next one. Now with the new one, the GFCI, did I get it right? Yeah. With that one, it requires 2 hots and 2 grounds. I'm sure that's not exactly perfectly said correctly, but that's what I mean. So I don't know how you would switch to another kind, and obviously it's there for a reason, so I would say just use that. And the most important thing, make sure that before you even start unscrewing anything, you shut the power off, test it, make sure the power's off. I almost made a big mistake, and unfortunately the camera wasn't on, because that could have been a funny one, or not funny. What I did was I shut the breakers off for these guys here, and I just assumed that the outlet was on the same breaker. And what I did was I started messing with it, and there's a part where you have to stick like a screwdriver in, you have to push it in to release a wire. And I was about to stick it in there, and the part that you put it in is actually connected to the hot wire, so there would be electricity running through it. I said, I should just make sure all the voltage is, drained out of this, just in case, right? So I hook my light up to that plug, and I flip it on, and it stays on, and I'm like, this shouldn't have this much residual energy. So I shut it off, I turn it back on, and I'm like, So I went down, checked the breaker box, sure enough, there's a separate one for the receptacles. That was very close. I could have easily stuck the screwdriver in there. Who knows what would have happened. It wouldn't have been fun. It wouldn't have been good. Could have started a fire. Could have hurt myself really bad. Who knows. So double check. Don't make my mistake. Just double check it and you should be good to go. But I think this is a success. Looks good. I got to clean up all this mess I made in here. And yeah,
let me know how yours goes. Let me know if you have any questions. Until next time, make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll get some more videos going your way.